Now, a warm welcome to this session over here. We hear applause from a neighboring room, so don't be disturbed. A warm welcome to this round of debate here at the Ukraine Recovery Conference. We focus on education and science and innovation in times of war. It's my pleasure to be here as a moderator. My name is Georg Schütte. I represent the Volkswagen Foundation. This is Germany's largest private foundation which supports science and research in the public interest. We as a foundation were the first ones in Germany to set up a program for refugee scientists from Ukraine 4 weeks after the outbreak of the war of aggression against Ukraine. We set up an 8 million fund to support refugee researchers from Ukraine who were in Germany to continue their academic career. And in the aftermath, we started to co-found a virtual Ukrainian Institute of Advanced Studies, which is currently working in exile, but with a number of fellows also working from Ukraine as part of the group. And as soon as the war is over, and we hope this is going to happen soon, this institute will relocate to Ukraine to start to build up an academic system and a research system which is up to date and will meet the challenges of the future. Talking about challenges of the future, we will focus on education and science and innovation in order to cover the whole range of the educational field to educate the next generation that will create a bright and prosperous future for your country, First Deputy Minister Kudryatov. And I will give the floor to you because you prepared a short video as an introduction to our debate. Minister.
Thank you very much, Georg. And I would like to start with a short video, and if you can switch it on, it would be nice. Yes. First of all, I would like to start with our deepest gratitude for the Minister and government of Germany to have this panel and to have this discussion. It's worth to mention that it's first time ever in the history of Ukraine Recovery Conference when education and science is a part of the discussion of future recovery, and it's very much important that on the third year of the war we are talking how we will develop the human capital and how it would actually be impacted on economic growth as well. But I want to lead you in the context of the story of every kid. You have seen some of them on this video, and their life trajectory is defined today by the war, but in the same time by actions of all of our participants in this panel and all of the guests and all of the communities and all of the world. We understand that we can speak about human capital in different dimensions, but in the last moment, it would not be only about economic growth. It would be about the social life. It would be about the quality of society. What will be the final result of what we are doing right now? And children need to feel safe. They need to communicate. They need to be in the society. They need to discover and they need to find the way of their personal growth. That's why we are putting the high priority and attention of creating the quality and safe environment for every kid to be developed. It might sound a bit pretentious, but I wanted to ask myself, and probably you can ask yourself as well. Would you like speak here in Berlin for these distinguished guests and panelists if you would not have access to education. The access to safe education, the access to knowledge and skills in your communities, in your countries. Would your best friend, as the same as mine, will have access to create their own business and receive the full scale of skills, hard and soft one, without education? Would they be mentally prepared to challenge and tackle the challenges based on their personal ground and knowledges without education system? And first of all, safe education system, not only physically but mentally as well. I would like to ask how we can fulfill these needs. More access to in-person education right now. Kindergartens, schools, colleges. It's essential prerequisite for having better social and emotional skills of our future generation. I would like to share with you that we are focusing right now on three main directions. It's emergency response, it's sustaining the current state of education and science, but in the same time, the development of future and reforms in education sector. Why we are doing that? Because as you know, and all of you here, like probably have some knowledge and experience in education, the gap between actual implementation and adoption of the new legislation and actual outcome in education and science are bigger than in every other sphere. We can do something right now and then we need to defend that it was correct decision for years before the actual outcome will come. But just imagine that almost 1 million kids right now in Ukraine are in some kind of online mode. For some of them, it has been for 4 years consecutive, coupled by pandemic and by war situation last 2.5 years. As a result, right now, the main priority of the ministry, together with the partners, is to move from emergency response to learning recovery as a smooth transition. And we have introduced the new policies of school offline with a target to get 54% down the number of students in online mode to get them back. How it's possible? First of all, shelters, delivery of kids by buses to safe place, and providing them devices if they don't have access to even online education. And yes, and finalizing that, I want to say that we are defining different areas right now, and we understand that we should make changes from preschool education as a part of Ukraine facility plan to get return back our families to be sure that this system is working, up to transformational changes in higher education system. And all of that we can do in common effort together for the future of Ukrainian children. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. This is a challenging transition. Let me turn to Minister Stark-Watzinger. What can we do from a German perspective? What can Germany do to support this transition and to meet the challenge?
Thank you, Dr. Schütte, dear colleagues, dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really glad that we are here today. And you mentioned already so many aspects. Let me quote a famous German writer, Heinrich Heine, who once said, "Money is round, it rolls away, education remains, it stays." So I think all of us here sitting in this room know about the importance of education, and later on we'll talk about research as well. But looking at the pictures coming here to this room and having been to your country and hopefully coming back this year, one can say under these life-threatening circumstances that you put such a high value on keeping up education. I really have high respect for that, and I want to say you do a great job. Congratulations to that under these difficult circumstances. So what can we do here to keep up that lifeblood of the society, the education? Let me say two aspects. First of all, those kids coming here, or young people coming here, we try to do two things. First of all, we provide them shelter, of course, but also provide them a space. As you said, it's more about knowledge. It is about being in a group, having moments of, where you can laugh, where you might even forget about that your family, parts of your family are still in a war, and give them friends to have a good, childhood in a way. But then, of course, it's about the knowledge and keeping up their ties, because we know so many have basically most or all of them, they have that strong urge because of the strong links to Ukraine and that urge to rebuild Ukraine, that we try to really establish the possibilities that they have still access to Ukraine schooling system, and also these young people coming here who want to study in Ukraine, that we provide together, and that is done by the scientific community, that you have the opportunity to do tests and everything, so that there is no break in your educational career. And let me just say some numbers. We roughly have around 220,000 children in school. We have more than 11,000 students here and more than 1,000 researchers. So this is what we do, try to help you to have the fundament to really rebuild Ukraine in a way you want to rebuild it, and that's compulsory.
Brief reply from your side?
Thank you very much. We have the understanding that this role of the governments in other countries, which you are playing in preparation of our future human capital and in saving them national identity and keeping them access for Ukrainian education system, is very much needed right now for Ukraine. And we hope that in our strategy, in our policy, we will develop new instruments to that, to keep it safe and simpler for every kid to get access for both education system, but at the same time to feel safe mentally as well.
Undersecretary Septycki, Poland as a neighboring country has a large Ukrainian diaspora. You're a first-hand observer, a first-hand supporter of Ukraine. What's your take on the reform and the further development of the educational system? What kind of support can Poland provide?
Well, first, when Ukrainian refugees started to arrive to Poland, but probably to Germany and to other countries, several of these kids have not been sent to schools because the parents have no idea, like during the war, what they will do. So we were speaking a kind of, well, like in a movie, Lost Kids. Okay, so one of the aims, the Ministry of Education, I'm representing the Ministry of Science, but the other Ministry of Education, after the election has fixed, is to find them and to make them go to Polish schools. We've been discussing them to estimate how many of them they are. According to Ukrainian sources, it's 50, 60,000. So this was one of the main tasks the Ministry of Education has fixed. First point. Second point, I think we need to develop a set of instruments which would correspond not only to the situation of the refugees, but basically to the situation of growing and also rotating migrations. Some Polish NGOs established a Ukrainian school in Warsaw with the Ukrainian program corroborated by some schools from Lviv. But then after a year, they've merged it with a Polish school program. So these kids don't have to go to two separate schools, which is basically like having, two full-time jobs. Quite difficult. But they are having in the same school Polish language in Polish, Ukrainian in Ukrainian, and math, have no idea, Polish, English, whatever, okay? But I mean, it's easier. And this is something we have to think about and to develop. Like you've mentioned, integration of these kids so they feel safe, but so that also their Polish or German colleagues, they understand organizing kind of Ukrainian days, days of Ukrainian culture, so that it's clearly understood once again who they are and why they are here. Also, on the level of ministries, governments, thinking how to help them to smoothly move one day from Warsaw back to Kiev, okay? How to, on the legal level, how to get their achievements out of Ukraine being easily recognized when coming back, but also probably, it's more to my colleague, how to create some kind of reintegration mechanisms once the Ukrainian refugee kids will be coming back to Ukraine.
Important keyword, reintegration. We should keep that in mind. Let's move from a national perspective to international agencies. UNICEF is here, and we heard two keywords, safe learning spaces, amongst others, and psychosocial support. Maybe you can pick those keywords up and describe what UNICEF can do to support the Ukrainian educational system. Ted Shaiban.
Thank you, and thank you for having us here. I want to start with what the first Deputy Minister said by indicating that we've had 4 years that have been it's very difficult for Ukrainian children between COVID and the war. And the net result of all that, according to a recent student assessment, is a loss of 2 years' worth of learning proficiency. And yet, when you speak to children, to young people, to their families, including at this conference, the top priority they have is to learn, to gain the skills, to be able to contribute to Ukraine's recovery. 2/3 of Ukrainian youth, not just in Ukraine, but in neighboring countries, want to go back and they want to contribute to recovery, to be skilled to do so. And so what we're talking about here is frankly primordial in terms of the recovery of Ukraine. UNICEF works extremely closely with the ministry on a range of issues. And as you've indicated, it goes from software to hardware. It's supporting the establishments of shelters, catch-up learning classes with a psychosocial component, because we also have to understand that children have been mentally affected and psychosocially affected by what has happened in Ukraine, all the way through to working on a range of policies and laws that will help us go into the future. I'm very excited that Ukraine recently adopted an early childhood education law. And by the way, that's the most effective return on investment. There's a 5-to-1 return on investment when you focus on early learning. But also an inclusive education strategy, a very strong focus on digital learning and training of teachers. We need a comprehensive approach, and we all need to line up as partners behind the ministry in support of the education of children and young people.
Thank you very much. Antonella Bassani, the World Bank set up a framework project to support education with a funding of $550 million US. What do you intend to do with that amount of money? There is one saying by John F. Kennedy who once said there is only one thing that is more expensive than education. This is non-education. So, 550 million.
Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me to this panel. At the World Bank, we are fully committed to support the recovery and reconstruction of the education sector in Ukraine. I was in Ukraine last week, meeting with Minister Rizovsky, Deputy Minister Yevhen, and discussing exactly how the bank can support the government efforts in both addressing short-term emergency need and supporting the government reform program. And I have to say, we have to commend the government for thinking of both these dimensions, the short-term needs, but also starting to strengthen the sector for the medium and longer-term impact. I want to say a word about the status of education sector. Deputy Minister already mentioned, we had a great video, but in the World Bank conducts regular monthly surveys of living conditions in Ukraine. And on the education sector, what do we know? We know that 1 million children are internally displaced. We know that 1/4 of children receive education through remote learning. And while it's commended that we do have remote learning, we all know that the situation of war causes severe disruption, whether it's because of electricity or heating outages or because of disruption to internet access or just the conflict itself. And for those schools that are open and where children attend, the war, of course, has deteriorated the teaching and learning conditions. So, and in addition to that, the grave psychological toll that the war is impacting on children impacts their ability to learn. And finally, looking at the medium and long-term financing needs for the sector, the government, together with the bank and other organizations, estimated a need for about $10 billion in the next 10 years. So the needs are huge. What are we doing in the bank? We completely support and embrace the vision of the Ministry of Education and Science, again, as I said, by addressing both short-term needs as well as longer-term reform implementation. With this project, we start with an envelope of $550 million, with an initial funding of $380 million that with the government we have canvassed from several donors, including Japan and others. The objective is first to finance the construction of school shelters and the provision of school buses to help as many children as possible to have in-presence education. Second is the financing of new textbook and teacher training, which is linked to the medium-term reform effort of the new Ukrainian schools to improve quality. And we really look forward to continue working with the government, supporting the government in partnership with other many organizations who are doing the same. I think it's important to rally all around the government program so as to not to stretch what are limited implementation capacities. I think we all need to invest in education now. Ukrainian children cannot wait.
Thank you very much. And I was told that there are two interventions now from the audience. I'm searching for Professor Chiara Dezzi-Bardeschi. The floor is yours for 60 seconds only. Professor
this is very
Bardeschi,
challenging.
UNESCO, please, go ahead.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. And concerning education and science, indeed, we know also from rapid damage and need assessment that this domain it's really in dire need. It's actually the second, I would say, priority in terms of required funding in the next 10 years. And as UNESCO, we are, as the previous speakers already mentioning, fully supporting the Ministry of Education and Science strategy 24-27 in these two main axes, emergency and long-term preparation investment in recovery and reconstruction. 4 areas, which is access to education, in particular supporting the hybrid format, digital learning, but also physical access with the shelter repair, the quality of learning, pedagogical aspects, that's critical, but also transforming mental health for the education system. And lastly, but not least, the area of the governance, data, all the part for the planning and the preparation, not only in the country, but also in neighboring countries. We are monitoring data on refugees, students present in countries.
Thank you very much. And neighboring countries is the right word to hand over the microphone to Arturas Sarnovskis. He is program manager of Co-Create the Future of Ukraine at the Central Projects Management Agency in Lithuania. Please.
Hello. Yes, I'm Arturas from Lithuania. Thank you for this discussion. And I just wanted to highlight that for Lithuania, the education sector is the top priority in Ukraine. We rebuilt the schools before invasion, we rebuilt the schools after invasion, and now we have ongoing projects and projects in the pipeline. And I just wanted to share the experience from reality, from on the ground. Now we are building bomb shelters in 5 different regions. It is EU finance and Lithuanian co-finance program. And just to share the experience, because the needs are enormous, and when you need to decide where and what to do, together with the Ministry of Education, they have a lot of data, and it is updated, and you can make data-driven decisions. So it is very important to make it systematic. The second thing, we use UNICEF-created typical technical design projects for the bomb shelters, and it saves time, it is crucial, and also we are now creating the adaptive technical design projects for the new building schools, so it is crucial timing. And the third thing, that it is not only urgent needs, because those premises will be needed after victory, because it is for dual usage, and it is expensive, but it will be much more expensive to create those catch-up programs, and that's why it is needed. And the last message for all Ukrainians, for the Mr. Yevgen, that country which invests into the education, into the schools, into the infrastructure during the wartime cannot be defeated.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we make a cut here, stop with education, not in a literal sense, but only for this debate here, and turn to science and research. And we do this in a similar way, starting with the two ministers and the undersecretary, and then open up the debate to a larger round here. Minister Kudryavets, there is a leaflet of your Ministry of Education and Science which lies out here, and it says, the development of science and the stimulation of innovation in Ukraine in all spheres is essential, and it's a question of stability and further competitiveness of our state in the world. Ukraine has set up a Ukrainian Global Innovation Vision 2030. Tell us a few words about your ambitions in science and research. You get my microphone. Here you are.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very good quote, actually, for the start of my part. Minister of Education and Science, together with the Minister of Digital Transformation, just recently adopted the new global innovation strategy. Because first of all, as it was quoted, we are very clear that it would be essential not only for the development of all entire life in the country, and during the recovery we need more scientists, more science results, but in the same time it's a question of our compatibility and competitiveness when we will join the European Union. And we need to prepare the infrastructure and the system right now for the future. And we are shaping our vision of the future with confidence that every player will play some role in this growth. And we have already started to develop and support programs and ecosystem of science-intensive network. We updated the system of priorities in science, technology, and innovation, like putting the high priority on military science and innovation in big tech and data tech. We are creating opportunities for international cooperation, the new modality with the European Union and with other partners, as we are doing with Germany, as we are doing with the United States and with other countries, to have this funding from different sources to support Ukrainian science. And we are trying to improve access to funding, including grants inside Ukraine, the access, how it would be defined, who is the actual implementator of the different researches, as well creating the new type of R&D and enterprises which will support the innovation development. For us, just to finalize it, the new innovation and science strategy is not only about the development of current scientific institutions, but it's almost everything is around the transformational and structural changes of understanding how it should work. Starting from the reporting system, funding, and finalizing how we will estimate the results. It would support us in the fastest development of our country.
Thank you very much. Minister Stark-Watzinger, looking at the German science and innovation system, what kind of support can this system offer to this reorganization and rebuilding of the Ukrainian innovation system?
Thank you. I think we all here know and we believe that a strong research and innovation system is the driving force for progress and for wealth. And having said that, Russia knows that as well. And that is why there is so many targeting on also the educational and the research infrastructure in order to destroy it and have destroyed this fundament. And again, first I would show my high respect, because you mentioned that, Minister, that you're not only on rebuilding, but you're also going through reforms at the same time. And that is really, really impressive. We can build on a 30 years trusted partnership between Ukraine and Germany, and we will have a new agreement in place later this year, to renew that, put it on its own feet, and keep on as a reliable partner, work as reliable partners. You have great representatives from the scientific community here, because we can support and we can fund, of course, and support with structures, but it's a bottom-up approach, and this is what I like when we have these meetings and teams from both sides come together. It's a bottom-up approach. So let me maybe mention 3 short aspects. First of all, we want to strengthen the research support, to strengthen the research capacity. We will build centers of excellence covering a whole broad range of topics, from history to nanotechnologies, medical, pharmaceutical, and so on, so that there is this, this capacity building, but also this brain circulation between our 2 countries. Second, we foster the ties between the 2 countries with certain projects we do, again, ranging from climate, health, and social sciences, with one specific focus, green energy, Green Deal Ukraine, in terms of, supporting the rebuilding of the energy system, but also at the same time supporting your aim to have a sustainable energy system. So this is the second aspect I want to mention. The third, you mentioned that yourself. It is the aim to become a fully associated member of the, or full member, not only associate, full member of the European research area. So again, we support with the structures and with projects that the process you've embarked on maybe runs a bit smoother, and share what is the knowledge here, so that we will be a reliable partner, and I can assure you we will standing with Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Stepczycki. Close to your pronunciation. It's
very
your
good,
turn.
very good. Thank you. Well, when the war started, the full-scale war, of course, we've started with an ad hoc help for those who are fleeing. This concerns the students. We have in Poland now some 24,000 Ukrainian students who have a free of charge access to Polish language programs like EU citizens. And we've also received some 600 scholars who got enrolled to Polish universities and research institutes. So this was the first step, but we are very much attached to the idea we don't want to contribute to demographic crisis in Ukraine. We don't want brain drain. We rather prefer the concept of brain circulation with Ukraine or with any other Western partner where our scholars would like to go. So that's why we focused then on financing and stimulating cooperation involving both Polish and Ukrainian institutions or scholars, some of them staying in Poland, but some of them staying in Ukraine. Our universities involved in the European universities were realizing the program Solidarity with Ukraine European Universities to stimulate, to develop cooperation between Ukrainian universities and European universities. We've also launched 2 programs to finance research teams located both in Ukraine and out of Ukraine. First, the Polish Academy of Sciences launched such a program with the support of the National Academy of Sciences. We are very grateful for that. There is also a program, Impress You, which is being realized thanks to the National Science Foundation with American, Polish, Baltic, and Ukrainian researchers. And, well, just one comment on that. We also have to keep in mind, I mean, we know all it here probably, but we must tell it all around the world. We are getting involved in common research projects with Ukraine, not only to help Ukraine, but simply because in some areas, Ukrainian scholars have a very good knowledge and instruments we may benefit of. So it's not a kind of asymmetric, aid, just a mutually beneficial cooperation. And this brings me to my third point, is that at the moment we should think not about how to receive Ukrainian refugees or how to cooperate, but how to make people, students, scholars from other countries go to Ukraine to contribute to the development of Ukraine, especially reconstruction, EU integration, but also simply how to develop the best Ukrainian universities, like everybody present here. I mean, three of us, we want to attract foreign students and foreign scholars to develop internationalization. So how to convince Polish, German, American scholars or students one day, especially when the war is over, that it's a nice thing to study in Ukraine or to make research projects in Ukraine, not only related to Ukrainian culture or to Ukrainian war, because it's obvious that if you work on such a topic, you want to go to Ukraine, but simply that some Ukrainian universities may be an interesting element of a researcher curriculum because they are good research institutions.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Just as you can hear, educational systems, school education systems are nation-bound, and you can do something with distant learning. The advantage of a science system is that it is international in its first instance, and that it allows for international collaboration. Masha McNutt, you traveled all the way from the United States here to Germany to join this conference. Earlier on this year in Zurich, you set up a meeting to charter international support for Ukrainian science and research. You did it in your capacity as president of the National Academy of Sciences in the United States. You chartered support from Poland, from American foundations like the Simons Foundation. Tell us a little bit more about the Science and Innovation Fund for Ukraine, which you set up.
Right, thank you. So the Science and Innovation Fund for Ukraine has several objectives. One is a near-term objective to prevent the erosion of science in Ukraine, to make sure that scientists don't leave their profession to either become cannon fodder, which would be horrible, or that they are poached by international universities and perhaps never return. So the short term is that. But we also have longer term views as well. And in the longer term, there are two reasons why Ukraine really needs to prioritize science. Number one, science is jobs, opportunity, and economic expansion. And so with that in mind, the goal should be to take the devastation that this war has created and out of its ashes build a new ecosystem for education and science in Ukraine that links education to research to innovation to growth in economy and jobs. All of that should be one seamless transition so that we don't have these valleys of death where university research doesn't result in any new products and services that people need. The second reason why Ukraine needs a strong scientific system is that scientists can speak truth to power in terms of determining how evidence can create better public policy. And one of the worst tragedies to ever happen in the US was the Civil War that happened in the 1860s. But out of that disaster that claimed more American lives than any war since was the creation of the National Academy of Sciences and the creation of the land-grant university system. That land-grant university system became the engine for economic opportunity. The National Science Foundation got a government charter which made us independent of government. We get no direct funding from government, and we are not controlled by government, but we are the official advisors to government. So that government turns to us to tell them what they really need to know for better policy. And these are two reasons why there has to be an emphasis on funding science and the education system. We're thinking 3% of the reparations should be dedicated to this goal.
Thank you very, very much. Patrick Kramer, strong supporter of Ukrainian scientists and researchers, has been and continues to be the Max Planck Society in Germany. What measures does your organization, what measures do you take to unlock Ukraine's research and innovation potential?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the topic of science and education is really central to not only, maintaining prosperity that is, left so that we can take it and recover the country later on. But for us, it was important, of course, the first reaction that the institutions, not just the Max Planck Society, but all the research institutions would immediately help. And why is that? We are reliable partners and we are within the European research area. And that actually extends from Lisbon all the way to Odessa. Ukraine is an integral part of that area. And the second important aspect of this international network is, of course, the transatlantic relationship. And that's why it's a great signal that Mashiach McNutt is here today from the US. In these really difficult times, in these times of war, where science has lost infrastructure, where people are at war, we wanted to send a signal of hope and we wanted to propose how we can help over the next years. So the Alliance of Science Organization has put together this Ukraine action plan, and I'm happy to share it with you. It will also go online very soon. And here we have, short-term, we propose short-term goals. We also propose medium-term and long-term goals. And of course, in the short term, it's very important for us to maintain bridges. Of course, we have taken in scientists, as the minister has mentioned, from Ukraine who were fleeing, but also we are maintaining bridges to those scientists who are still in Ukraine and trying to do the best they can to educate students to do their research. And we want to continue to do that. A second step would be then to have remote scholarships, to also establish research groups that retain some links with the other European countries. And I think that will be very important for people who are setting up research endeavor in Ukraine, returning to Ukraine, that they still have access to infrastructure, that they still are part of this dynamic and lively supportive network. Then, as a more, future goal, long-term goal, we want to, of course, help and rebuild the educational system, the institutions for science, and actually turn this terrible time of war into an opportunity. And I think that is possible because we will stand united within Europe, within the European research area, and you are our partners and we want to continue. And this is basically my take-home message. We have a plan, we stand by your side, and we are there, at every step of the process. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for this comment, which also, please, go ahead. Thank you for this comment, which also reflects a joint effort of all German research organizations. And while this setting here provides you with an opportunity to sit almost next to Masha McNutt, let me just propose that you join forces, the Science and Innovation Fund for Ukraine from the NAS, the activities in Germany. Maybe you can join forces and have a stronger impact. Talking about impact, let's turn to Alexander Antoniuk. You're from Ukraine. You heard proposals from the outside. What is your take then on the further development of a science-based economy in Ukraine and of science-based also policy advice in Ukraine? Yeah. Alexandra.
Thank you. Great question. Thank you very much. You see, I'm very glad that we have a common round of the discussion starting from education, coming to research, and now we're speaking about innovation. This is the whole circle of any economy. And I have a dream that Ukraine can self-recovery. So now Ukraine is dependent on the money of donors, but the question how we can self-recovery. And the key for that answer is innovative economy of Ukraine. And that's exactly what Masha has said, and you have said, that only investment in the chain between development and innovation in the transfer technology will help us to develop the Ukraine, which can live as a science-based economy. So I would like to also address the question how we can bring Ukrainian scientists back to Ukraine. Of course, we need to have a place where Ukrainian scientists, not only Ukrainian scientists, all the foreigners can work in Ukrainian universities. And this is also a subject of further developments. And what I would like to address also to our ministry and our kind partners, of course, Ukraine needs investments, but it needs clever investments. When donation comes to the Ukrainian economy, it is very important to have a part of that to reform and improvement of science and innovation system. When it will be a target support of science and innovation, then in a couple of years, I am sure, then Ukraine will be an engine of Europe, and I hope this will be true.
Thank you very much. The challenge is there. Ukraine currently invests 0.17% of its GDP into science and research and innovation. So there is a long way to go, and the country needs international support. In a closing round, I would like to propose a challenge to everyone here to provide us with one key message that Minister Kudryavets can take home, a key message that you can give him in order to create hope. When I entered the building here, I came across a poster that had a quote from Alisha Mikheeva, a schoolgirl in Ukraine. And she said, "I want children to dream of going to space, not surviving the war." Let's start to dream here in this round, and let's provide signals of hope. Antonella Bassani, the microphone is next to you, and you can then pass it on. One key message from your side.
Thank you very much. It's clear in the future of the country depends on its growth, its productivity, and a critical ingredient of that is skills, innovation, and technology. And so what we are discussing today is about discussing the future of the country. The World Bank stand with the government, will support it in this very important area. Thank you.
Okay.
Prawda peremoże. The truth. And it's important in our field of activities because science is to discover the truth. We've mentioned the innovation technical aspects, but there is also the aspect we haven't touched upon. I'm about to end. This is the question of the Russian disinformation, okay, which is quite often, by the way, used also by our home EU populists. So in that aspect, our scientific cooperation is also of importance to explain to people the truth, not only about Ukraine, about the vaccination, about the climate change, to strengthen all of our countries, our European community, against Russia and against our, once again, pro-Russian local allies.
Thank you so much. Patrick Kramer.
I think it's quite simple. The key to resilience and the key to recovery and rebuilding is the next generation, and that generation needs to be educated, it needs to be empowered so that they can contribute to this process. And that has to be done, it can only be done in an international network, and we will be there as partners to help.
Alexandra.
Thank you. I would like to say that we are a partner. Ukraine has the same problems as all other countries when we speak about transfer technology. And let's solve these problems together for better world and for the safer world.
Thank you very much. Masha McNatt.
So when Antonella talked about the future of Ukraine, well, the future of Ukraine is in the young people. We really have to empower the next generation, and these young children have been through hell and will come back again. They are the ones who are going to be bold. They are going to be the risk takers. They are going to be the ones who know no limits because of what they've been through. And I just hope we can find some way to create that environment that encourages them and takes all of us old people out of the equation so that they can thrive.
Thank you. Minister Stark-Watzinger.
Thank you. Professor Kramer talked about building bridges. So we all here contribute one piece of that bridge into the future for Ukraine. So we, as a German government, we keep up what we promised. We allocated 24 million euro to build these centers of excellence, to foster our ties, and to support you on your way to the European research area. So building the bridge in the future. But let me also say building the bridge across countries. A clever man once said, the governments, they come and they go, but people who've studied or lived or worked abroad, they will always be a citizen of the world. And I think being the citizens of these like-minded countries, we are building the bridges between our countries.
Ted Chaban, please pass on the microphone. Thank you.
The message is we are with you in solidarity around learning and hope for the future of children in Ukraine. One of the most important developments, I think, of the last 12 months has been this commitment to having children back at school. We know that virtual learning doesn't work as well. And I'm very excited by the school offline initiative that Ukraine is championing. And I very much look forward to being in Rome at the next recovery conference with children that have gone back to school and who can tell us all about it. Thank you very much.
Well, we covered a broad range of issues. We covered a broad range of issues. We covered the issue of hardware and physical infrastructure, safe learning spaces, scientific equipment that is needed. We covered the personal approach, the psychosocial support that people need. We talked about talent flows out of Ukraine and back into Ukraine, from Ukraine and internationally. We talked about the governance of educational and higher education and research systems, and we talked about political support also for your country to join, for example, the European research area. And we talked about policy advice that can be given from the research side to politics in your country. First, Deputy Minister, what's your take-home message that you will take home from here to your country?
First of all, I would like to thank all of you, and I think that it's highly important event. In one room, I see not only in the panel, I see our main international partners and organizations, UNESCO, UNICEF, the World Bank. I see our main bilateral country partners here, Germany, Poland, Lithuania, Switzerland, Sweden, all of you with us on this way every day. And I wanted to cite out one American philosopher. He said, Alan Bloom said, education is a movement from darkness to light. But for Ukraine and Ukrainians, education is both a weapon and the first line of defense against darkness. And you are with us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I have two final remarks. The first one is that I would like to encourage our Italian colleagues to take the message from here that education, science and research are essential for the future of your country. And so I would like to urge our Italian colleagues, if I may say so, to integrate this topic in next year's conference. It is of crucial importance and it should be reflected next year. And my final word is Slava Ukraine.